When Hitler came to power in 1933, for all we knew, it was just another form of anti-Semitism. We didn't realize how bad it was.
March 1938, all of a sudden my Gentile friends from school became my enemies.
We really became aware of it when the Nazi Bund got started here. And they used to have meetings at a Bund. And of course what they would come up with is kill all the Jews, get rid of them, and all that stuff. And that's when we became aware of it.
I was born also in Vienna, Austria. We lived in the same building that my husband lived in, a floor below, although we were children at the time. And we came to the States in '39.
But I, as a kid, when we heard that there was a Bund meeting, we would cut Hebrew school. The first thing we did is, once they got out of sight, we punctured their tires. I mean, I recalled the joy I had of sticking a screwdriver into their tires.
Then in August, my number came up. My parents took me to Le Havre, the port city in France, and I boarded the ship to come to America.
We endured Hitler for about a year after the Anschluss, went through Kristallnacht, and finally were able to come to the States.
One of the lesser known stories, and I don't even think Mrs. Wachtel knows I know the story, is that in the shadow of the Nazi rise to power, she was a young teenager and she went out to go raise money for Karen Kayemet Israel, and she was caught by the Nazis and Nazi sympathizers who turned her in. And she stood through the whole process. And when she was done, she walked out and she turned to her father and handed him all the money that she had raised. And he said to her, "Why didn't you turn the money in when they asked you for it?" But that was Mrs. Wachtel. She turned to her father and she said, "It's unbelievable. That's not my money. And it certainly didn't belong to the Nazis."
I joined the US Army because I was patriotic. I felt I have to pay back the American government for letting me come to America. One day, one of my lecturers came up to me and says, "You know, you speak with a strong German accent. What are you doing here? We don't need you here. We have a much more important place for you." Well, at any rate, within days, I was shipped out and sent to Camp Ritchie. They taught us how to interrogate, how to recognize, how to maneuver around German prisoners. That was our job. I landed 3 days after D-Day on Omaha Beach. We landed in France, and as I landed with other compatriots, other soldiers, climbing down the rope ladder on the side into boats that took us to the actual coast of France, bodies swimming in the water, in the ocean, floating yet. Landing on the beach, there were bodies still all over, it was not cleaned up. the word came that the American army liberated Dachau and the British liberated a camp up further north in Germany. So I figured, let me see what it's all about. I took the Jeep, I went to Dachau, and it was a sight can't describe.
When Hitler came around, first he took me to work in the city. Later on, he took me to concentration camp. This was very tough. No food, beating. You have to work very hard. And sleeping conditions were tough. Everything was very tough. Concentration camp is something which it shouldn't happen never to nobody.
Words fail me because there were bodies all over. The people that were able to walk couldn't even walk. They were hobbling along. Their mere strength was just to see us and to jubilate that they finally see freedom.
We were in a place called Kamyanka, where over 20,000 Jews, when we were liberated, we were 22 or 23 Jews left from over 20,000. Very terrible. Killed every day. I was young and strong and willing to work, so this maybe helped a little bit.
So I approached some of them, and when I started talking Polish, and then one led to the other, and then Yiddish, they were exuberant. Here's an American soldier who speaks Yiddish, who is Jewish, and what can you do? What can we give you? What can we give them? We couldn't give them anything because they were so undernourished that any kind of food that we would have given them would instantly put them down. All right, after a few days, I befriended 3 of them, 3 Polish DPs. I set those 3 guys up, and eventually they became human beings again. One of them, it turned out later, was a silversmith in Poland. And out of gratitude, he formed a silver candlestick, 2 of them, silver candlesticks for me, and gave them to me as a present, being thankful for what we did for him.
I think that's really what our shul is all about. Gemilas Chesed, selflessness, and grand community. I think that's what makes the Wachtels such special leaders about our community. From the youngest ages, they've always been able to really lead by example. Until today, I look forward to seeing Mr. Wachtel first in shul. Always a good word. And I think in many ways, that's what's great about the Pinskers also. I don't think it's a surprise that Yossi sits right behind Mr. Wachtel, picking up right where Mr. Wachtel leaves him a chance to go from, one right after the other.
We're very grateful to be beneficiaries of the foundation that was laid by the Wachtels and others like them who have lived in the community for a long time.
That's what the Pinskers are about. There is nothing that Yossi and Shaindy are not involved in.
Everything that we do for the shul, whether it's sending emails, organizing programs, whether it's for the shul, the mikvah, or whatever else it is, we feel like it enhances not just the community, but our family.
We're going to have continuity of a Jewish existence and a Jewish life. There have to be people who work towards that end.
The mikvah, the school, the shul, every aspect of the shul.
I think we're tremendously lucky that when we came here, the community was already a beautiful, wonderful community.
I understand it is very difficult. Today people have to go to work, especially the women. And I admire the young people that can serve the community.
I joined the Adath Israel at that time because it was within walking distance of my home. And at the beginning, I was amazed how busy the place was. Adath Israel for Yom Tov had to put chairs along the walls to accommodate the influx of other people who are not members, who just want to come to shul, and youngsters.
I think I remember Mr. Wachtel telling me that if not for certain efforts in the community, there wouldn't be a Chaver Kadisha. But in his true humble way, what he really wanted to let me know was, if not for his efforts, there wouldn't have been a Chaver Kadisha.
Then we were debating where we were going to live when we were looking at different communities, and at about that same time is when Rabbi Schwartz came into the community. We said, wow, this can really be a great place. We have a new rabbi, a new dynamic rabbi, and his Rebbitzin, Tammy, and look, we were right. We're happy we made that decision because look how much the community has grown in that time.
Rabbi Schwartz fell in like a perfect puzzle, the last piece of a puzzle. He invigorated us. He invigorated the Oilim.
Well, I am very pleased. When I first came, it was a question of how long it would last. It was not thought to have much of a future.
And all of a sudden, week after, new faces showed up in shul. Where did they come from? Well, they heard about our shul, they heard about the yeshiva here, and they figured they move to Hillside Elizabeth to become part of our Oilim.
We love the closeness of this community. I love that I really know almost everybody in shul. I love that I could really make a difference here. It matters that I'm here. It matters that I can do something, and it really affects the whole community.
I just felt that having survived Hitler and having participated in getting rid of him and adding 3 daughters to make up for the lost children that were killed over there, I wanted them to have the right Jewish education.
Just the kindness of the people and the shul and the school, and we felt that it would be such a great place to raise our children. And I'm happy for them that they get to grow up here. I think it's a really wonderful place to live.